mythical sniper skills, heroic triumph against all odds, and getting in trouble because of Medal of Honor Warfighter? Hold position and await further instructions. There's a lot of intel on SEAL Team 6 you probably aren't aware of. In late 1979, in the midst of the Iranian Revolution, a group of Iranian students burst into the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took more than 60 Americans hostage.
It seems the Iranian students have the initiative. The next move is evidently up to the United States.
In an effort to rescue them, President Jimmy Carter authorized the rescue mission Operation Eagle Claw. The mission itself was a complete failure, and 8 U.S. service members died in a helicopter accident. In response to the debacle, the Navy created a specific SEAL team for the sole purpose of fighting terrorism around the globe. Operation Eagle Claw had been conceived at the last minute, and military commanders wanted a unit that would always be ready for such operations at a moment's notice. Enter Commander Richard Marcinko, a grizzled Navy SEAL who was tasked with actually putting the team together. Marcinko was a high school dropout who had joined the Navy in the 1950s and was a veteran of the Vietnam War, where he had earned numerous medals for his actions in battle. He chose to name the unit SEAL Team 6, even though there were only 2 SEAL teams at the time. His reasoning for doing this was that it would hopefully confuse the Soviet Union, along with any other nation that posed a threat to the United States, and make them wonder if their intel was way off. During Richard Marcinko's run as commander, SEAL Team 6 gained quite a reputation for drinking. According to Brave Men, Dark Waters, the untold story of the Navy SEALs, Marcinko and members of the team were constantly getting into ordeals that involved excessive alcohol use. They would frequently hang out at local bars, and they had a habit of fighting, both with each other and civilians. They even tried to show off by eating broken glass. Members were frequently arrested for street brawling and public intoxication, among other alcohol-related charges. One former SEAL Team 6 officer reportedly said that Marcinko all but required heavy drinking to be part of his unit. The book Code Over Country claims that Marcinko purposefully used alcohol during his recruiting process. He would start drinking heavily with whichever new recruit he was interviewing, and if the new guy wasn't able to keep up, he was considered useless. Marcinko's recruiting process was strict in other ways too. In his autobiography, Rogue Warrior, Marcinko recalled an incident where he kicked a soldier out of his unit for refusing to shave his beard. In 1984, after Richard Marcinko had relinquished command of SEAL Team 6, he was given orders to form a new secret operations unit. According to Marcinko's autobiography, Navy Admiral James Ace Lyons ordered Marcinko to create a new unit that specialized in evaluating the weaknesses of Navy bases around the world. Marcinko was tasked with breaking into these bases to expose their vulnerabilities. The operation, officially called OP-06D, was nicknamed Red Cell by Marcinko, and it was made up completely of former SEAL Team 6 members, with one exception. They would go around to different bases, infiltrating supposedly secure areas and planting fake bombs that would explode and cripple communications. One time, when they released a series of smoke grenades, the explosions caught the attention of the local fire department, who came rushing down to the base. According to Brave Men, Dark Waters, Red Cell gave the bases full warning of each of their planned attacks, but they still managed to infiltrate anyways. Many of the participants on the bases felt terrorized by the incidents, including one security officer who alleged he was stuffed face first in a toilet and given a cracked rib. Marcinko saw Red Cell as a new version of SEAL Team 6 he could command, and they trained the same way and continued to utilize the same tactics. Eventually, Marcinko himself became the subject of a criminal investigation. According to Brave Men, Dark Waters, in the spring of 1986, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service had begun looking into Marcinko's activity involving fake travel reimbursements and kickbacks. Marcinko and John Mason, another original SEAL Team 6 member, had concocted a scheme where they received $100,000 in kickbacks from a deal involving the Army buying grenades from a third party. He was indicted in 1989, and in 1990 was found guilty of conspiracy, bribery, making false claims against the government, and conflicts of interest. He was sentenced to 21 months in prison and a $10,000 fine, but he was released just a year later. He went on to live a civilian life, publishing his aforementioned autobiography, along with a series of books on management techniques for business executives. Beyond that, he hosted a conservative radio show and was even immortalized in video game form with the critically panned and expletive-laden 2009 entry Rogue Warrior, which featured actor Mickey Rourke as the memorable voice actor.
My hairy big wrap him around your mouth. I'm gonna at you.
Being one of the most elite fighting forces on the planet, getting into SEAL Team 6 is no easy feat. Just making it through the initial training is already an incredibly grueling task. According to the BBC, there is a failure rate of 70 to 85% per class. This 24-week course is called Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, or BUDS for short. Here, trainees are subjected to a harrowing, non-stop onslaught of physical and psychological demands. The most infamous portion of BUDS is undoubtedly Hell Week, a 5.5-day span where recruits sleep a total of only 4 hours and end up running more than 200 miles, according to CBS.
You're hungry, you're cold, you're sandy, you're wet.
Even after the most determined trainees are able to complete BUDS, they're still required to complete parachute jump school and SEAL qualification training, or SQT. This all culminates in an elaborate training exercise called SEER, which stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. If a recruit can make it through all of this, they're finally awarded the Navy SEAL Trident. But everything we just discussed is only what one must endure to be admitted into the SEALs in general. In order to be accepted into SEAL Team 6, one must be an active SEAL delivery team member and have 5 years of experience and 2 deployments under their belt. In October 1983, the U.S. invaded the island nation of Grenada in the West Indies after a communist coup. President Reagan ordered the invasion partially in order to evacuate several American students who were attending school on the island. According to Brave Men, Dark Waters, Grenada was the first real-life test of SEAL Team 6's capabilities. They were given 3 objectives. They were to seize the government house, place beacons on an airfield, and disable a radio transmitter the rebels were using. Their first mission, to take out the radio transmitter, failed conclusively, and the team had to make a quick escape under fire. The second mission, to protect the Governor General of Grenada, Paul Schoon, also did not go to plan, according to Brave Men, Dark Waters. While the SEALs were able to protect Schoon and secure the government house, they were pinned down by heavy fire from the attacking Grenadian army. Miraculously, they were able to hold their position, and the following morning they escaped when a Marine company came and assisted them. All told, 4 SEALs died during the invasion. Though colloquially known as SEAL Team 6, the actual nomenclature of this group is a bit more complicated. As previously discussed, SEAL Team 6 was initially conceived in 1980. There were 2 Navy SEAL teams at that point, Team 1 and Team 2. While Team 1 was working on training for more conventional counterterrorism operations, Team 2 formed a group that specifically focused on maritime training, in case that type of operation would be needed. The group formed by Team 2 was first known as Mobility 6, but it was renamed SEAL Team 6 shortly after. Within 6 months, the unit was already considered ready for action. In 1987, SEAL Team 6 was officially disbanded and then reincorporated under the new moniker United States Naval Special Warfare Development Group, or DEVGRU. In 2010, The Atlantic reported that DEVGRU had once again changed their name to confuse enemies. However, since nobody had publicly referred to the new cover name, officials have purposefully not revealed what it is. Joint Special Operations Command generally changes the cover names for DEVGRU and other units under their command every few years. They do so to add another layer of secrecy and security, and to obfuscate as much information as possible. Jean-Bertrand Aristide took power as president of Haiti in the nation's first democratic election. However, within a year, he was ousted in a coup d'etat, orchestrated by a general in his army, Raoul Cedras. SEAL Team 6 was quickly deployed to Haiti to rescue Aristide and bring him to safety before he could be imprisoned or executed. The next year, in 1992, they were again called to help with ex-officials from the overthrown Haitian government. According to the San Diego Tribune, the second rescue also went off without a hitch, and all of the targets were taken to safety. Though government officials refused to release any information at the time, the raid was apparently authorized directly by President George H.W. Bush, and Haitian officials were completely unaware that the SEALs had briefly invaded their country. The 1992 article consistently noted that SEAL Team 6 was a secretive group, and the Department of Defense and Pentagon were still refusing to even acknowledge the group's existence at this point. Though it has largely escaped mainstream attention, SEAL Team 6 participated in the famous 1993 Battle of Mogadishu, immortalized in the best-selling book and subsequent feature film, Black Hawk Down.
RPG! Hold on! No!
In the book, Mark Bowden describes the various contributions that SEAL Team 6 made during the battle. Their original task was to ride in Humvees as part of the ground convoy that supplemented the helicopter assault. 4 SEALs were in the Humvees, flanked by members of the Army Rangers and Delta Force. There were 12 vehicles in the convoy, and they were able to help evacuate the U.S. soldiers and any captured prisoners after the raid was completed. During the assault, one of the SEALs' signalmen, Chief John Gay, was shot. Gay initially did not know the extent of the damage, but he immediately felt a sharp pain in his right hip. Luckily, when a Delta Force operator examined the wound, he discovered that miraculously the bullet had struck a knife in Gay's pocket instead of his hip. The bullet destroyed the knife on impact, and fragments of the knife and bullet lodged themselves into Gay's hip. But amazingly, he was able to continue on with the assault. By the end of the day, Gay's Humvee became so pockmarked with bullet holes that it resembled a sponge. In the 1990s, SEAL Team 6 played a huge role in the apprehension of half a dozen Bosnian war criminals. In his book, Killer Elite, The Inside Story of America's Most Secret Special Operations Team, Michael Smith describes the various captures. In January 1998, SEAL Team 6 was secretly sent into Bosnia to start carrying out arrests. Their first targets were Goran Jelasic, Simo Zaric, Milan Simic, and Mirsalov Tadic, and they were all captured in Bosnia within a few weeks. All of the men were former Bosnian government officials or police officers who had participated in the ethnic cleansing and murder of Muslims in the early 1990s. SEAL Team 6 was not the only force working for the arrest of the war criminals, though. There were also raids by the British and Dutch special forces at the same time. Next, they captured Radislav Krzic, a former Bosnian Serbian general who was responsible for massacres of thousands of Muslim men and children. He was arrested with several of his associates, 2 of which turned out to also be wanted war criminals. Between 1999 and 2003, each one of those war criminals was sentenced to prison. Krzic was convicted of genocide and sentenced to 46 years of imprisonment. Jelasic was convicted of crimes against humanity and war crimes and sentenced to 40 years. And Zaric, Simic, and Tadic were all convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to varying prison terms. In the early days of Operation Iraqi Freedom, the U.S. Army engaged in many fierce battles and firefights with the Iraqi Army. During a patrol of an area in Nasiriyah, Iraq, a group from the 507th Maintenance Company took a wrong turn, and they were ambushed by members of the Iraqi Army. Per the New York Times, 15 members of the 507th were kidnapped by the Army and taken prisoner, and some of them were killed right away. They were shown looking terrified in a forced recording shortly after their kidnapping. SEAL Team 6 was part of a large rescue force that included Army Rangers, Green Berets, and Marines. They got word on the location of one of the prisoners, Private First Class Jessica Lynch, and they rescued her from an Iraqi hospital less than 2 weeks after her kidnapping.
I actually felt, oh my God, this is real. I'm going home.
They found her in Saddam Hospital, which had also been acting as a military command post. When they stormed the hospital, they found Lynch lying in a bed with multiple gunshot wounds, broken legs and arms, and a fractured back. During the mission, SEAL Team 6 also helped recover the bodies of 9 American soldiers who had been killed in the previous weeks. In one of the most famous incidents in Special Operations history, SEAL Team 6 participated in the 2009 rescue of Captain Richard Phillips from a group of Somali pirates who had taken over the Marisk, Alabama, 240 nautical miles southeast of Somalia. The events were dramatized in the 2013 film Captain Phillips, which stars Tom Hanks as the titular captain.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
A group of SEALs had been stationed at the Horn of Africa and originally dispatched to the scene to hold down the situation until SEAL Team 6 could arrive from the States. There is no official record of when SEAL Team 6 took over for the other SEALs, but eventually they arrived with sniper rifles in tow. SEAL Team 6 attached their boat to the pirates' lifeboat, where the pirates had been holding Phillips at gunpoint for 4 days, and slowly pulled them closer. When they were 25 meters away, 3 members killed all 3 of the Somali kidnappers with simultaneous headshots. They shot them in the head to stop them from having involuntary muscle spasms that could have made them accidentally fire their weapons and injure Phillips. The difficulty and precision of the shot cannot be understated. They were operating at night from a boat moving on the open ocean, and 3 of them simultaneously fired single headshots to kill their targets. There were no mistakes and no missteps. Then, just like they came, SEAL Team 6 vanished from the scene into thin air. A few years later, SEAL Team 6 carried through with another of their most important and well-publicized operations to date, Operation Neptune Spear. You may recall how the events were dramatized in the 2012 film Zero Dark 30. After a decade of searching and high-stakes intelligence gathering, the CIA was able to approximate the location of 9/11 mastermind Osama Bin Laden, a small compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The intel wasn't fully verifiable, but it was enough for President Barack Obama to send in SEAL Team 6. The operation went almost as smoothly as it possibly could have. One of the two helicopters carrying the SEALs crashed upon arrival, but there were no injuries. The SEALs raided the compound with brutal precision, killing anyone who stood in their way. After making it up to the third floor of the compound, they found Bin Laden, who was attempting to use his wife as a human shield. This wasn't enough to stop the SEALs from carrying through with their mission, though. Robert O'Neill, the former SEAL who allegedly pulled the trigger, told CNN,
I engaged him. I shot him twice in the head. He fell on the floor. I shot him one more time, and I killed him.
Then, after destroying the damaged helicopter so that it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands, they exited with Bin Laden's body and various items that would be further investigated by intelligence analysts. Less than 24 hours later, Bin Laden's body was dumped into the northern Arabian Sea, in accordance with Islamic law. The day after that, a DNA test was able to confirm that SEAL Team 6 had indeed assassinated the right man. In January 2012, SEAL Team 6 made yet another daring rescue. Somalian pirates had kidnapped American aid worker Jessica Buchanan and Danish aid worker Paul Hagen-Thisted from the Somali village Galkayo. To save them, SEAL Team 6 secretly parachuted under the cover of darkness into a nearby village before proceeding on foot to their location. There, they encountered 9 armed gunmen, and after a brief firefight, the SEALs eliminated all of them. None of the SEALs suffered any casualties, and both Thisted and Buchanan made it through unharmed as well. Previously, the kidnappers had refused offers of up to $1.5 million to let the hostages go. Other ransoms had been noted to have gone as high as $10 million, and the U.S. government was worried about their harsh treatment and deteriorating health conditions. The SEAL Team 6 attack was carried out with brutal efficiency, and just as quickly as the commandos came, they left and whisked away the 2 hostages with them. They were flown back to safety. And that night, President Obama informed Buchanan's father that she was safe as a result of the rescue. Due to being one of the most highly classified and secretive units in the entire U.S. military, SEAL Team 6 members are expected to exercise extreme care and decorum when discussing their activities and duties. However, in 2012, 7 members were publicly reprimanded for violating this tenet and collaborating with video game manufacturer Electronic Arts. The SEALs worked on the game Medal of Honor Warfighter, which has gamers play missions similar to those undertaken by SEAL Team 6 in real life. All of the SEALs were on active duty when they worked with EA for 2 days in the spring and summer of 2012, according to CBS.
We're going to take the fight to them, wherever they are, wherever they go.
Army authorities claimed that they had used classified information as part of their consulting duties, and they also called out the SEALs for breaking the unwritten code of deliberately staying out of the spotlight. According to gaming website Polygon, the Department of Defense charged the 7 SEALs with violating 2 sections of Article 92, orders violation, misuse of command gear, and dereliction of duty, disclosure of classified material. As a result, the disciplined members had half their pay taken away for 2 months and received a letter of reprimand. In 2016, Chief Special Warfare Operator Edward C. Byers was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions during a 2012 raid/rescue. Byers had participated in the rescue of Dr. Dilip Joseph, a humanitarian doctor who had been kidnapped by the Taliban along with his team near Kabul, Afghanistan. SEAL Team 6 had spent hours traversing over rocky and dangerous terrain to make it to Joseph's location, and intelligence showed that they had to move quickly before the doctor was taken to another hideout. They snuck up on the compound and took the Taliban completely by surprise. Per the Washington Post, the first SEAL Team 6 member into the compound was Petty Officer First Class Nicholas D. Czech, who burst through the makeshift door and into the room the hostages were being held in. Members of the Taliban shot Czech immediately as he entered the room, and Byers was just behind him. Byers quickly found himself in direct hand-to-hand combat with multiple Taliban militants. Miraculously, Byers managed to subdue them while simultaneously protecting Dr. Joseph from harm. After securing Joseph, Byers immediately rushed over to assist the medic attending to Czech. He helped perform CPR on Czech for nearly 40 minutes during the helicopter ride back, but Czech was pronounced dead on arrival.
Nick Czech was a true American hero, and he's a hero of that operation.
On June 4th, 2017, 34-year-old U.S. Special Forces Staff Sergeant Logan J. Melgar was found dead in Bamako, Mali. Melgar was in Mali working with other Green Berets, training the local forces and working against insurgents. According to the New York Times, authorities immediately suspected foul play and ordered an investigation right away. The coroner ruled Melgar's death a homicide and said he died from strangulation. By that November, the military had formally charged 2 former SEAL Team 6 members in Melgar's homicide. Petty Officer Anthony E. Didolph and Chief Petty Officer Adam C. Matthews, along with 2 Marine raiders, were indicted on charges including felony murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, burglary, hazing, lying to investigators, and involuntary manslaughter. According to the charges, all 4 of the accused had procured duct tape earlier in the day, which they used to hold down Melgar while they strangled him to death. The Daily Beast reported that a rift between Melgar and the SEAL Team 6 members had developed over Didolph and Matthews' alleged stealing of money and use of sex workers. Matthews was ultimately sentenced to 1 year in prison for the incident, and his murder charges were dropped in exchange for his testimony against the other defendants. Didolph was sentenced to 10 years in prison, bussed down to E1, lost pay, and received a dishonorable discharge from the Navy. In 2017, SEAL Team 6 was assisting the Somali army in training and support operations, working with the Somalians to defeat the insurgent Al-Shabaab militant group. During one of their missions, Senior Chief Petty Officer Kyle Milliken died after getting shot by militants, while 2 other members of the team were wounded. Original reports indicated that they had stayed behind purely as support for the Somali army raid, but within a few days, military authorities were giving a new story. The new report stated that the SEALs were traveling together with the Somali army forces, and they fought together during the battle. According to NBC, all of the Al-Shabaab militants were killed, though it was not entirely clear whether the actual mission target was among the dead. Per the report, Al-Shabaab was connected to the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, who were responsible for 9/11. SEAL Team 6 operated only with handheld firearms and explosives, as they did not have air cover or artillery strikes at their disposal. President Donald Trump had recently approved expanded operations against Islamic militants in Somalia, and this was one of their first raids under the new orders. As an American citizen living in a foreign country, Philip Walton already had many difficulties and challenges in his daily life. However, things took a dramatic turn for the worse in October 2020, when criminals kidnapped him from his backyard. Walton was serving as a missionary in the border village of Masalada, Niger, when he was taken and held for ransom, one of several Westerners in the region to have been captured. Yet, less than a week later, after members from SEAL Team 6 had been assigned to the case, Walton was returned to his family safe and sound. Walton had been taken to neighboring Nigeria after being kidnapped in Niger, and the SEAL team carried out the raid there on October 31, 2020. The operators were able to track the kidnappers through their cell phones, and a team of more than 24 SEALs participated in the airborne operation. The team had to hike to find the kidnappers in Walton after parachuting into the area, but they made quick work of the criminals. What made the rescue so dramatic is that they likely saved Walton from a horrendous fate. Had SEAL Team 6 not acted as quickly, Walton would have been sold to Nigerian terrorists, where he would have been held for ransom or possibly killed. Planning and carrying such an intense and high-profile mission in a matter of days is pretty incredible, once again demonstrating why SEAL Team 6 is considered among the best of the world's elite special forces.